Now, I had a lot of confused people in these comments, which is the goal. Nothing that I do is ever supposed to make sense. However, let me explain this. So, I go to a gender therapy specialist. She's fucking great. And she's deep into academic Twitter. So she found this person's dissertation where they argued that being cis and straight is a trauma response. Which at first is just like, what do you mean? That doesn't make any fucking sense. But if we think about the heteronormativity that is our society, and how in so many parts of our country especially, like, it is so not okay to be trans or to be gay, people aren't allowed to express or explore that side of their identity. So they just kind of conform to society and don't even think about it. Like, gender and sexuality is such a broad spectrum, to only exist on one extreme of it doesn't make any sense. Especially if you're both extremes, you know? Like, it could happen, but...
I'm starting to think there's a collection of people out there that are confused about themselves. They don't know their own identity, and instead of working on themselves or looking in the mirror and trying to figure out what that is that they're seeing in the reflection, they just want to confuse the fuck out of everybody else. Because I was born in 1999, and I watched SpongeBob, I watched Looney Tunes, I watched Regular Show, I watched Kid Next Door, I watched Adventure Time, I watched all these shows. I've had all these experiences with men, with women, and I'm struggling to figure out, how is me being straight, or anybody being straight, a trauma response? What happened to you grow up and you're born gay? What happened to you know who you are deep inside? How is it all the institutional powers and growing up in a systemic society and bigotry and blah 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 supposed to make sense when y'all are running around talking as if you became trans and your mind became awakened and you unlocked your third eye? It makes no sense, and I wish people would just stop trying to confuse everybody else with a bunch of gobbledygook. You don't know yourself. You shouldn't be wasting your time trying to confuse everybody else. It is absurd that you expect to walk into a crowd of straight people or cisgenders and tell them you are straight and cis because of trauma. What trauma? Growing up, living life? Some people didn't even have this talk about trans individuals and gay people in their lives, in schools, in their daily lives, casually going around, being out in public. Why? Plenty of reasons. The main one that seems to get lost on a bunch of people, whether if you're for it or against it, is because kids were just growing up being kids. Damn, it's not that hard to figure out, and trying to piece it together like it's some Pythagorean theorem is benign to me, because these kids are just going through life. They don't know anything. All they know is doing homework, pissing the bed, and watching a cartoon and playing a video game. These motherfuckers don't know nothing about politics. They don't know nothing about sex. They don't know nothing about gender. So to continuously try to make this make sense, whether it be to children or adults, is confusing the ever-loving fuck out of me, because it's a bunch of people trying to sound like they know what they're talking about, but it's just a bunch of people who don't know their own reflection in a fucking mirror.
Trans men don't need to be like cis men at all in order to be men. Trans men don't need to know that they're a man from a really young age. They don't need to play with trucks as a little boy. They don't need to hate the color pink and purple. They don't need to hate dresses. Trans men can love to wear makeup. Trans men can be of any sexuality. Trans men don't even have to feel like men if they don't want to. They can be bigender and feel like both man and woman. They can be non-binary and feel like both either a combination of the two or something completely different. They can use he pronouns, she pronouns, they pronouns, it's, neopronouns. They also don't have to be predators in the way that some people think cis men are. They don't invade queer spaces because they are queer people and they have lived experiences of marginalized gender. They aren't inherently harmful because being associated with masculinity doesn't make anybody harmful. They don't have to go on testosterone or want to go on testosterone. They don't have to want top surgery. They can want to have breasts. They can want to have a vulva. And none of those experiences invalidate the experiences of any man, cis or trans. Because gender is literally anything that you want it to be and can look like whatever you want. And the most beautiful thing about being trans is that every single person does it differently.
Know that they are transgender from the moment that they have any ability to express themselves, and parents will often tell us this. We have parents who tell us that their kids, they knew from the minute they were born practically, and actions like refusing to get a haircut or standing to urinate, trying to stand to urinate, refusing to stand to urinate, trying on siblings' clothing, playing with the quote opposite gender toys, things like that. There is more and more a group of adolescents that we are seeing that really are coming to the realization that they might be trans or gender diverse a little bit later on in their life. So what we're seeing from them is that they always sort of knew something was maybe off and didn't have the understanding to know that they might be trans or have a different gender identity than the one they had been assigned. So that is a growing population that we are seeing, and that's being recognized as being trans and able to be treated.
Most of the patients that we have in the GEMS clinic actually know their gender, usually around the age of puberty, but a good portion of children do know as early as seemingly from the womb, and they will usually express their gender identity as very young children, some as soon as they can talk. They might say phrases such as I'm a girl, or I'm a boy, or I'm going to be a woman, or I'm going to be a mom. Kids know very, very early. So in the GEMS clinic, we see a variety of young children all the way down to ages 2 and 3, and usually up to the ages of 9. When they come into the clinic, they'll see one of our psychologists, and we'll be talking to them about their gender. We'll be talking to their family about how to best support that child and how to make sure that that child has the space and support to explore their gender and do well throughout their development. And we'll be answering any parent questions. A lot of parents do have questions, and so we answer those questions. The biggest piece of advice I give parents who are coming through the gender clinic at Boston Children's Hospital is to just be supportive. Sometimes you might not understand. Sometimes you feel like you don't know the terms, or you don't kind of get exactly what the child means when they say that they might be this gender. But the biggest thing you can do is just love your child and support them and just allow them to express themselves. That's the biggest protector as well against negative mental health effects such as depression, suicidality, anxiety that we worry about for our gender diverse kids and young adults. So that support from a parent is one of the best protective factors and one of the best things.
Anxiety and would never sleep, and we couldn't figure out what the problem was. We took him to specialists and neurologists, and he had brain scans trying to figure out why he couldn't sleep. Then as he grew, he got to sleeping, but his food choices were odd. They were always like green vegetables, raw green vegetables, which, if you know kids, most kids don't like to eat those things. And then the precocious puberty. All of those things, once we figured out that he was transgender, when he came to us and told us that he was transgender, when we went back and realized that the pattern of everything that he had experienced as a child, including eating green vegetables because that boosts testosterone, were just methods of his body trying to become who he was meant to be. His brain does not match his physiology.
Controversial hot take time. Sexiest black YouTuber you're watching right now, don't care who you are, man, woman, gay, lesbian, bi, asexual, trans man, trans woman. Live your life. Stop trying to confuse the fuck out of everybody else, because it's getting a little bit absurd how many people exist to do such a thing and how they seem to think they're talking in such a wise manner when in reality, everything they said sound like bullshit they made up once they had too many edibles. And for the rest of you, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all and your confused genders and pronouns in the next one. Goodbye.